And I was wondering, what role did World War II play in contributing to the Red Scare? How did it exacerbate really the security state and its abuses, and really just create the environment for this hysteria?
It's a great question. There are really two ways I'd say. The first is that to the extent that the Red Scare was a cultural conflict coming out of the 1930s between New Deal progressives and the backlash to the New Deal and anti-New Deal uh, conservatives, the war really put kind of a damper on any sort of real conflict. So it was only after the war that you saw this conservative backlash really take up the issue of communism in this new context of the Cold War, where it was no longer just this conspiracy theory that communists were in control of the government, or it still was a conspiracy theory, but you couldn't dismiss it as easily. And so people who claimed that communists were living under our bed sheets and in our closets and in the State Department suddenly were taken very seriously. But the other way the war was relevant or shaped this era is exactly as you said, that there was a lot of trauma coming out of World War II. We remember the post-war era as this period of abundance and good feelings, and eventually it was that. But in those first few years, it was marked by a real sense of insecurity and a sense of fear and a sense of trauma. There were millions of service members coming back or not coming back from the war. Those who did had psychological wounds, physical wounds that were often is sort of ignored by the public, which had its own trauma of going through a period of rationing and sort of states of emergency. There was also a fear that the Great Depression would return, and so in the context of all of that, the Cold War sets in, and within a matter of months after the end of the war, people are being told, "Oh, actually, now we have a new war, a Cold War that could be a hot war, and this time with nuclear weapons." And so everyone needs to be ready for that. And so not only were people sort of already fearful and insecure about their place in the world and their country's place in the world, but they were also prepared for these claims about national security. The way that we talked about it during World War II is to a large extent set the template and set the grounds for the way we talked about it during the Red Scare.
Yeah, and I've always kind of wondered about that because, admittedly, you're right. I think that a lot of the histories don't do enough justice about how traumatic World War II was. Not only because we have a triumphalist like view of history that sees us progressing ever onward, but we also are under this false impression that we can never fall into hysteria or authoritarian thinking.